Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another social emotional workshop. We are here with CARE of Southeastern Michigan, and we're going to be talking about um,
How understanding behavior.
understanding childhood behavior. Forgive me, I got all these titles rolling around in my head.
I
We're going
know.
to be
I
talking
know.
about understanding childhood behavior. Theresa, welcome back. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Good deal, good deal.
Okay. So if since Joe's not here, Tony, would you mind just giving me the counts of like male, female?
Sure.
Okay. And so today we're going to talk about understanding behavior. And what I am going to do is there's some things I'm going to be asking you guys. And do they have the ability to like unmute themselves, Tony, and talk if I ask them questions?
Well, no, they don't.
Okay. Could
I can
you?
unmute them if they raise their hand.
Okay. Okay. Or even if they would like to put their answers
They
in.
have the ability to type in the chat box.
Okay. Okay. Well, since I can't see that, then I will need your help with that. Okay.
No problem at all.
Okay. All right. Great. So, things changed since we were kids. I don't know what generation you all are coming from, but I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And so I tried to find pictures of cute little kids from that era. And, when we were little, you just did what you were told. You didn't ask any questions. Kids should be seen and not heard. Maybe some of that leached into the 80s and the, beyond. But when I was a kid, you knew what you had to do. And if you didn't, you knew how your parents were going to handle it. So we were afraid, to get out of the boundaries and possibly do something different or speak our mind. We weren't going to be that. But things have changed since I was a kid, and we've learned a lot about brain growth and development. And what we learned is the order of brain growth. So it starts on the bottom. That brain you're seeing is, the red part on the bottom. It's labeled number 1. That's your old brain. And when you're born, that's all ready to go because that is your basic survival functions, like, breathing and your heart beating and your, blood coursing through your veins. So if you didn't have that old brain ready to go, you would probably have died. And sometimes they call it the reptile brain because even reptiles have that. That's basically their brain. But we have so much more. By the time we are a year old, that little red part, orange part in the middle is formed by your first birthday. So that's your emotional brain. And, your parents are holding you, you're looking at them and you're falling in love and with them. And then the bond happens and the emotions are there and the memory is there. And so you need that too, because you need to know that those are the people that love me and will take care of me and keep me safe and warm. And, once you have that, then you're ready to go explore your world when you're a year old. The last part of it, that number 3, the rational brain, that doesn't happen until at least 25 years old. Some kids maybe a little bit older than that, 26, maybe 27. It all depends on their, nature versus nurture thing. But usually by 25, that front part is ready to go. And that front part is taking care of all these skills, sound decision making. That's why teenagers make stupid decisions. They don't really have the capability to make very sound decisions. Empathy is there. So you're not born with empathy. It's got to grow. You've got to learn it. Consideration of consequences, regulating your emotions. Another reason why kids and teenagers are so emotional, with either anger or, drama, whatever it is going on in that kid's life. They both have it. boys and girls. There is no girls are harder than boys. Boys go through emotional development too, hormones everywhere. And so they don't have that ability in the front part of their brain to regulate their emotions. So they can be emotional too. It's just that they tend to lean more towards anger. And then self-awareness and morality are still there. Now, I'm not saying they can't go there. What I'm saying is that usually we don't let them go there. Usually we either are hovering, saving, helicoptering, and we keep them in their emotional brain. Or we're punishing, yelling, threatening, and we're keeping them in their emotional brain. They have the capability of trying to get there by us kind of nudging, encouraging, but we don't always do that. So most of their reactions to you come from their emotional brain. They're reactive. They don't think things through because they don't have those sound decision-making skills. They don't think about what they're going to say might hurt you because they don't have those empathy skills, confirmed in their brain. They don't think about regulating their emotions. So everything is a reaction to what you're doing. So that's one reason why kids act the way they do, because they don't have the brain capability of thinking things through and being logical. We're trying to apply logic to a brain that sometimes is not very logical. So those things can get them in trouble. Those things can make them act in ways that we don't understand. We're looking at a teenager who's maybe 16 years old, and they have the body of an adult, the size of an adult, especially girls at 16. Usually that's what they're going to look like as adults. And so we assume, hey, they should be logical. They should be thinking things through the right way. I've told them 100 times. Well, they're not into considering consequences yet, unless we'd help them do that. So that's one reason that kids act the way they do. And that's what we've kind of learned more about. I don't think it's brand new science since the 60s, but I'm sure that they're learning more and more about the brain and the way it acts as years go on. And we've also learned a lot about parenting styles and how they affect that emotional brain. So, there's the dictator, and most of us are probably familiar with that as the my way or the highway parent. You don't get a lot of say in that parenting style. They're very over involved, so they're giving a lot of orders to us as children. And so as adults, a lot of times, not as adults, but as we get older, we don't know always how to make the right kind of decisions because we're never allowed to. Also, that kind of parenting style can create rebellion or people pleasing. And that's another reason why kids act the way they do. On the opposite side of that is the doormat parent, or the really permissive parent. And, they're not very involved. They're more under-involved. So they don't have any rules that they follow consistently. Or if they do have rules, tonight it might be get in bed right now, it's 9 o'clock. Tomorrow it might be, I'm exhausted, I don't want to deal with kids. When you're tired, you fall asleep on the floor, I'll put you to bed. There is no consistency there. And so, that might lead to a child who's entitled, who thinks that they shouldn't have to work for anything. They don't have to follow the rules. There are no rules for them. And usually this kind of parenting leads to kids that are out of control because nobody's in control of them. And that makes them scared and nervous. And so they show that in their behavior. They try to be controlling. And it doesn't always work. Tony, are those some questions in the chat?
No.
Okay. So, what we teach in our parenting classes is the active parent, because it's a combination of both of those things. And we support the kids, but we don't take it over. So we do have the decision making. That's what that symbol is for the doormat. There's like decisions that can be made, but usually with the doormat or permissive parenting style, the decisions are made by the kids. And we also have the circle, which represents the dictator. But that circle is very inflexible. It doesn't move. That's why it's called my way or the highway. But with active parenting, that circle is more flexible. So they get older, that circle of rules might get bigger, wider, but still they have choices within those limits. But if they screw up, if they show that they're not being very responsible, then that circle has the capacity to shrink again. And now we have to supervise a little bit more. You still have choices, but within a smaller circle. When you can prove to me that you can be responsible again, that circle will get bigger. So that's what we kind of focus on. And what we learned in the parenting class is that depending on what kind of parenting style you use, it could affect the kind of behavior that you get. So that little math equation that you see, E plus R equals O, that stands for the events that come up, things that kids do, whether they're positive or negative. Those are events that occur throughout their childhood. The R is your reaction to it, whether you're a dictator parent or a doormat parent. And the O is the outcome. So in that little equation, really the only thing that we have control over is our reaction. We don't have a reaction over the things that happen to them or the outcomes, but we can change our reaction. So, when I took this parenting class, I discovered that I was more of a dictator parent and that my son was also into power and control. So he was becoming a dictator too. And that's why we were clashing so much. So I didn't become a doormat parent. What I became was an active parent. So I set up rules, but I gave him positive personal power by allowing him to make choices within those boundaries that I set up for him. So parenting style means sometimes it's them. It could be out of control because they are, immature. They're young. Their brain development isn't completed yet. Sometimes it's us. If we're a dictator or a doormat parent, sometimes it's both. They're reacting to us, we're reacting to them. So that's what we're kind of focus on here, figuring out, what kind of parent we are, which I hope I've been able to do here a little bit for you. And, why they act the way they do with their brain development, but how can we figure out other reasons about why they act the way they do? So what if we know that we're a dictator or a doormat parent? How do we change those things? So, one of the things that we talk about too in the parenting class is the greatest human need. And I know that Joe's talked about that before. And that comes from H. Stephen Glenn. He is a psychologist, and he talks about the greatest human need being love, acceptance, and affirmation. We love our kids. They know we love them because, we take care of them. But do they always know that we love them unconditionally? We would say yes. Yes, they do. I'm always there for them. I always tell them I love them. But what do they feel? When they make a mistake and we yell at them, do they feel that love is unconditional, even though we don't mean it that way? Is that the way they're processing it in their head? That I have to be a good kid with perfect grades and always do the right thing before I'm really loved? We don't know. That could be what they're thinking. A lot of kids do. They process things differently than what we say to them. And so we need to show them acceptance, and we need to show them love, and we need to confirm that with affirmations to them. I love you is the best one. I'm here for you. What do you need? If you've got a problem, how can we work this out together? Don't worry. Let's think about the positives of this situation. Looks like you're upset. What can we do to work on this together? Those are the things that kids need to hear from us, especially when they make a mistake. The other day, I was on social media, And I loved this article because it talked about the picture was a wall, a drywall that was all painted and finished in somebody's home, I'm assuming. And it sort of had like it looked like somebody barked their head into it. You know, there was like little tiny dent, and there was like cracks coming out from it. And basically what the article was about was that this little girl was playing too rough with her brother, and she kind of hit the wall and caused that damage, older kid. And she came to her mom, she was crying, she was upset. And she told her mom, it was an accident. I was playing too rough. I hit the wall and I caused that. And the mom was like, okay, we can fix it, but you got to go tell your dad, he lives here too. But give me a minute. And she went into the room and she told her husband, look, she's coming in here to talk to you. And this is what happened. And so we have two ways of responding to her. We can have our head explode and we can yell because, yeah, they were playing too rough and they shouldn't have been. They should have known better, blah, blah, blah. But, what kind of message is that sending her? What if she has something as she gets older really important to tell us? How's she going to feel about coming to us? So our other option is to, encourage her for being brave enough to be accountable for her mistake, and then ask her how she wants to help you fix it. Even if she stands there and, I don't know, holds the paint can for you, something, there are ways to help her to understand how she can make amends. And so that's what I mean by, helping our kids, affirming our kids, our love for our children, by how we respond to them. Like I said, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's us, sometimes it's both of us. And kids, if we can show them that love and that affirmation, they will act good, because when we show them those things and they feel loved and accepted, their brain's going to get flooded with those feel good chemicals. And when you feel good about yourself, you tend to treat other people well too. But if you don't feel good about yourself, when you don't fit in, they'll find other less, discouraging or more discouraged ways to fit in. They will act out their behavior in one of two ways. Usually kids get their self-esteem and how they feel about themselves, not only from the way we talk to them, but also through just the events that happen in their life. When they have positive things happening to them and their self-esteem is high, they can make some really good choices because they feel encouraged. They have good self-esteem. And so they have more positive behavior, which leads to positive consequences. So we kind of call that a success cycle. That's what we hope our kids are going through on a regular basis. But the same thing can happen over on the left-hand side. If negative things might come up, negative events might come up, and if causes them to not feel so great about themselves, and they might have some poor choices that they choose, which makes them feel discouraged. And we might see more negative behavior, which is going to lead to negative consequences. And so these things just happen. Sometimes they go through success cycles, sometimes they go through failure cycles. But what we talk about in the parenting class is that we may not be able to stop negative events from happening, but we can get into between the event and what they think and feel and change that for them by pointing out the positive. Hey, you came and told me about that dent that you made in the wall. That took some bravery. You went in and talked to Dad. You know how he usually reacts, but you went in there anyway. You didn't ask me to go tell him. That took some courage too. And you made amends by brainstorming with Dad and coming up with the idea. He's going to fix it, but you're going to help him. You're going to pass him the tools. You're going to paint a little bit if he lets you. And so, you made amends for the mistake that you made. And, that's positive, even though you had made the mistake or had an accident. So we as parents can help fix that for them. And it's kind of a preventative measure, that encouragement. It helps them to see that not all of their mistakes are failures. It gives them the opportunity to see that they can make amends. And so hopefully we will turn that failure cycle into a success cycle for them. I have to do something quick here because I want to get rid of that bar. Okay, now back here. Oh, hold on. I want to show you this video. This is a video that we show in our parenting class. And I think I have to do something here first. So when you're watching this, he's going to come in and he's going to act like, this is session 5. But right after that, he's going to start talking about the way that we kind of feed off of other people's anger and they feed off of ours, and our 2 cycles, those 2 that I showed you, that failure cycle, that success cycle, that's called a think, feel, and do cycle. Sometimes we can kind of feed off of each other with our kids, mostly when they get into power struggles. And so he's going to talk about that a little bit. If I get it going here.
Welcome to Session 5, Understanding and Redirecting Misbehavior. During this session,
Can you hear it, Tony?
we'll increase your knowledge of what's really going on during parent-child conflicts. We'll also help you see how you can use the active parenting skills that you have been learning to redirect your children toward positive behavior when they pursue their goals in negative ways. The first step is to try to get inside our children's minds and see things from their perspective. For example, remember Nicholas's angry monologue about his mother bossing him around back in session 1?
Mom was always so bossy about everything, saying do this, do that, drink your milk, brush your teeth, always ordering me around. Finally, one day I decided I'd had enough.
If we look at Nicholas's words through the think, feel, do cycle, we can see that his thinking is producing a feeling of anger, which is about to produce defiant behavior. All he needs is a triggering event.
We're leaving in a few minutes. Put this on.
Bingo.
No.
Of course, parents have thoughts and feelings of their own. And looking at Mom's angry expression, I'd say her thoughts were something like this.
I can't believe he's challenging my authority like this.
Which produces her angry response.
What did you say?
Now Mom's response becomes a trigger event to Nicholas, which gets processed through his thinking and feeling, resulting in another response.
No!
What we see here is that the parent's action, what they do, becomes an event for the child. Laura and Nicholas's think, feel, do cycles become connected as they influence each other. We can illustrate this by merging 2 think, feel, do cycles together to become what we call the parent-child cycle. And so it goes around and around, with one person's behavior becoming the trigger for another's think, feel, do cycle in an infinite dance, until the 2 people physically separate, which is sometimes the best thing to do.
Okay, so I imagine that you might have seen yourself in there with somebody that you care about. Whoops. Or like maybe your kid or another adult. Adults can get, trigger each other too. But this is where I'm hoping the chat will come in, because I want us to kind of go through this diagram real quick. If you have something that you want to say or an answer to the question, just put it in the chat and Tony can read it. So, what was Nicholas's first thought when his mom said, put this shirt on? What did he think to himself? Anybody remember? Okay, I'm not sure that we're going to get any answer. Oh, maybe so.
She's bossing me around again.
Right. I've had enough of her bossing me around. And how did that make him feel?
Angry, he was over it, irritated, upset.
Exactly. Upset, angry. I'm over this. I've had enough of her bossing me around. So what did he do when she said, put this on?
He told her no.
Yeah. No, he refuses to put that shirt on.
He
And
acted
then,
out.
pardon me?
He acted out. He did.
Oh, yeah, he sure did. And so that created that whole thing with mom and dad. I mean, with mom. Now, when mom hears that refusal to put on his shirt, what is she thinking?
Frustration. He's being disrespectful.
Yes.
Not
Okay.
again. Why won't he listen? He's being disobedient.
Yep. So she's thinking, I can't believe he's challenging my authority. How dare he talk to me that way? And so that's going to lead her feeling angry too. And then what's she going to do? She's going to give him that angry response. I said, put this on. And so then they're going to get in that big cycle. So again, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's both of them together. And so this is what used to happen to Lucas and I all the time when he was like 3 years old. And so what I had to learn in my parenting class was that I had to give up some of that power unless I wanted this to continue the rest of his life. Because Lucas, he's 32 now, and he's not much different as far as being opinionated and headstrong, which has done him a service, up to this point, because, I couldn't tell him what to do a lot of times, but apparently nobody else could either. He was more of a leader than a follower. But what I had to do back when he was 3, 4 years old was to give up some of my powers, things that I didn't care about. Like, do you want to walk to bed or should I carry you? Or like Nicholas's mother, do you want to wear the blue shirt or the black shirt? Or do you want to brush your teeth before breakfast or after breakfast? I didn't care about those little things. The circle was teeth have to be brushed. Okay, and the little squiggly line inside that circle, the choice was, do you want to do it before breakfast or after breakfast? I don't care, as long as the teeth are brushed. But for Lucas, that was a big thing, because just like Nicholas in the beginning, he goes, she's always telling me when to eat, drink my milk, brush my teeth, go to bed. Kids are like that when they're little. And if they happen to have the personality of a Lucas Sandner, then they're going to fight that. If my second daughter was my daughter, second born, was nothing like that. She was not into that. It didn't matter to her. So I parented her a different way. I still gave her choices, but she was a little bit easier to get along with. So I didn't have to, I didn't have those same issues. Was it because she was born after I took the parenting class? I don't know. I'd like to think so. It's also because she has a different personality. But anyway, like I say, it could just be us feeding off of each other, and that's why misbehavior sometimes happens, because they have these mistaken beliefs, and the best way I can illustrate that is by talking about that person who's typically pretty good about watching what they eat, getting regular exercise. They don't eat fatty foods, too much of them anyway. They get plenty of sleep, drink lots of water, get some exercise. But one day they just have a bad day. From the moment they wake up late for work And then they get in trouble from their boss, and then they put the wrong socks on because they were running around trying to get dressed. There's a stain on their shirt they didn't notice because they were running around trying to get dressed. Got a ticket because they were speeding, trying to get there before they're too horribly late. And so at the end of that horrible day, they get home and there's a big, huge bag of barbecued potato chips sitting there. And all they can think about is just ripping it open and eating it, because that they just, barbecue, crunchiness, grease, it all just is so wonderful. But about 5 minutes later, Tony, how do you think they're going to feel?
More likely than not, especially if they're watching their weight, they're gonna feel really guilty about it,
Yeah.
They're gonna go like, dang, I shouldn't have done that.
Yes. I knew things to do so that I wouldn't eat that bag of chips. Why did I do that? You know why? Because of their mistaken belief that food gives comfort.
Wow.
It's a smile on your face. When you're hangry, upset, and you're also hungry after a long day at work, horrible day at work, you're more likely to tear that open and get into it. That's a mistaken belief. It's the belief that is creating that feeling of angst and anxiety and anger, and it motivates that behavior to eat those chips. So even though what you could do, you could drink some water, bite an apple, go for a walk, you went for the comfort food. So I think we can all kind of relate to that. Makes sense to us. Well, kids, when they're discouraged and when they're, not feeling like they can fit in a positive way, they find negative ways to fit in. I belong only when I'm being noticed. It's not that you don't spend time with your kids. With kids who want to be noticed all the time, it's about being noticed on demand, attention on demand. I belong only by being the boss, just like Nicholas or my Lucas. Don't even tell me what to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do when I feel like doing it, that type of thing. But these kids are doing it in a negative way. I'm not lovable. I belong only by hurting those people that hurt me. I want them to feel bad too. So they're immature. They don't know how to fit in a positive way. They're hurt because they tried to get a bid for power and they weren't, getting any. And so they feel hurt and confused, and they want to hurt and confuse back. Or the last one is, what? I belong by convincing everybody that I can't do anything. So I'm just not going to do anything. I can't take a test without getting yelled at for not getting A's. I can't seem to dress the way everybody thinks I should, or look the way they think I should, or act the way I should, think everybody thinks I should. So you know what? I just give up. If I don't do anything, then I won't get blamed for anything. Those are really discouraged kids. You won't see that in toddlers. The kids older than 5, if they've been corrected enough and hovered over enough or screamed at enough, they start to feel discouraged. So I just give up. I don't do anything. And so we call those the 4 goals of misbehavior. I can't fit in a positive way, so I'll fit in a negative way because I know what that little red button is on that adult's forehead. I don't like to be taught back to. I don't like when my kid ignores me. I don't like when they don't do this or do that. So if I want that goal of misbehavior, I'm just going to press that button, zing, zing, every time I want to fit in. Just like that person who, wanted comfort. It's a mistaken belief. So they can get into that failure cycle of a misbehaving child. So this kid here, he knows that when he pulls his sister's ponytail, his mom or dad's going to come in and say, "What are you doing? Stop that right now. I've told you hundreds of times, you don't pull your sister's hair. Keep your hands to yourself. Don't be pulling her hair. Leave her alone. You have no right to pull her hair. Get in your room until you can act better." And so he stops temporarily. But then, later on, he might start up again because that's a good way to get somebody to come in here and start engaging with me. Or he might decide that he's going to pull her hair because somebody will come in and get mad at him again and tell him to knock it off. And they might decide they're going to punish him. And so he's going to argue back. You know, you can't tell me what to do. I'll pull her hair when I feel like it. I don't have to listen to you. I'll call CPS on you. You can't tell me what to do and make me go in my room. So there's a power struggle starting right there. And so, you know, you might think like, why would they want somebody yelling at them? You know why? Because they know they can do it. Because it makes them feel like they have a little bit of power. You know, I can get this parent to act the way I want, just like a puppet on the end of a string. Watch this. I'll get them real mad. See my sister over there watching TV, not paying attention to anybody except the TV. I'll go there and pull her, pigtail. Dad will come in here and start yelling at me. And then I could yell back and he'll get even more mad at me. And then I can get even mad and call him a name. That's that, retaliation. Well, you're stupid and I don't have to listen to you. You're not my real dad anyway. There's that, I want to hurt someone the way I've been hurt. And then the stepdad might say, hey, fine, you want to go live with your real dad? Let's go pack your bag and I'll drive your butt over there, you know, or you can go sit in your room for a month after school every day. You know, there's that cycle of retaliation. And so that kid knows that he's hit his mark. Yeah, I might have to spend a month in my room, but he'll get over it. If I whine loud enough, he'll let me out of there. He'll tell me to go outside. I'm bugging him, you know. Or, you might just have that kid that pulls her hair because he doesn't know how to act better. Whenever he does try to act better, he gets yelled at anyway. She tattles and they believe her, not me. And so, why not? Why not just pull her hair? I get yelled at anyway. So that's that, inadequacy. I can't do anything right. So kids will behave those feelings. That's another reason why they act that way, because, inadvertently, we don't mean to, obviously, we teach them what that little red button is on our foreheads. And so if they're having a bad day, they know they can come home, lay on their bed for a while, decompress by watching TV or something like that. That's what they usually do. But today I'm really mad and I'm going to come home and I'm going to make sure everybody else in the house is miserable too. Because again, they're immature. They're not up here, making good decisions, managing their emotions, having empathy for their little sister whose head's all red now from getting her hair pulled, bugging their parents. So, any misbehavior really could be one of those 4 goals: attention, power, revenge, and inadequacy. How do we know what it is? It's important to know because we don't want to be putting out the wrong fires. We don't want to react to their misbehavior, which is like taking a glass of fire starter and throwing it on a fire. It just makes it bigger. There's ways that we can change it, but we have to know what that goal of misbehavior is. So there's 3 questions that you have to ask yourself. How do I feel? I'm not saying like, I feel like I want to go over there and rip their head off. I don't mean that. Or I feel like they're disrespectful. I don't mean that either. I mean, what's that gut reaction that you feel when this problematic behavior comes up? Do I feel angry, or do I feel resentful, or am I over here at the other side of the spectrum, which is a little less? Am I just irritated and annoyed or embarrassed? What do I usually do? Do I yell and scream, or do I, nag them over and over and over and over again? And how does my child respond when I do that? So those are the 3 questions that you have to ask yourself, and I'll show you why in a minute. But first I want to ask you, what are some problematic behaviors that you guys deal with? If you could put that in the chat so that Tony could tell me what they are. Maybe it's like problems that you seem to keep dealing with over and over again. Or maybe it's something new that's just started that you don't understand why they're acting that way. If I could just have like one or two examples from you guys, that would be really good. That would be helpful.
Yes.
Okay, you gotta tell me what it is.
Kids purposefully being disobedient when they are called out on something, almost for attention.
Okay. Anybody else?
Saying they are going to get work done, but don't do anything.
Okay. Slow or sloppy work. Could be sloppy too. Halfway done, don't ever do it. Excuse me. Anybody else?
Repeated excuses about why they aren't working, sick, tooth issues, students who hang up on me when they are frustrated. Wow. My 11-year-old says no to everything I ask him to do.
Okay. Those are good ones.
Yeah.
You know, you guys might not agree with me, but excuse me, that kid that hangs up when they're frustrated, it might be a positive thing. If that kid knows that they can't control their anger when they're frustrated with you, hanging up on you might be better than them saying something horrible that may have gotten them in trouble before. I don't know, because I don't know that kid, so I don't know exactly what their thought is behind that. I saw the one that said procrastination. I saw that one. Because I have to get rid of that bar. It covers up everything. All right. So I'm only going to take a couple of those because it is, we're got limited time. So the person who says that they're going to do work and then they never do, that person, that parent or that teacher that said that, how do you feel when they do that? What's your gut feeling the first time when you say, please get this work done, and they say, okay, and then a half hour later, it's still not done? How do you feel?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Shirley, I'm gonna allow you to talk. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, that was me who said that. And most of the time, I don't get too upset about that because they're not forthcoming on what's really going on in their lives. So, I don't know if they're being truthful or if they're making things up or if they're procrastinating or if they're being lazy. So, because it's an over the phone conversation, it's really hard to get to the bottom of it and get to the truth. So I try to let it just roll off me, and because there's nothing I can do. They're out of reach really of me because it's a phone thing. So that's basically where I am.
Are you the one that said that they say they're going to do work and then they don't do it?
Yes.
Okay. But if it happens often enough, even though you don't know what's going on, how does that make you feel when they do that?
Well, no, I don't feel good about it. And, I find after we've had a couple of conversations, they stop picking up the phone for me. So now I have zero communication with them. And yes, it's frustrating because I know that there are things I can do to help them. And they
Okay.
don't give me the opportunity to help them. So it is, yeah. And that's what my job is. That's what I'm here for. So.
Okay. I want you to be more like primal, like just, I know that you're a teacher and I know you have like things that you have to do or that you think about, might be going on. But I just want you to give me like a gut reactions here. So you feel frustrated. I heard that. What do you
So you
usually
don't want
do?
me to be politically correct then, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to take them by the shoulders and give them a good shake. Is that what you want to hear?
Yeah. Because that everybody gets that. Everybody knows that. Yeah. But what do you usually do? Like, okay, I've told them a couple of times and, or here we go again. They didn't do what I asked them to do. How does that, like, what do you do when you're frustrated?
Well, actually, I would probably look for a student to call next to who is working so I can have a positive conversation and not continue to bring myself to like down and be angry about it. I probably, yeah, I would say I'd look for a student who we can have a great conversation or your kid is doing great and, sort of offsetting the feeling, I suppose.
Yeah. And you're, trying to be very patient with them. I get that. And you want it to be a positive experience. But let's say you're frustrated, Shirley, and you just, want to address this kid. What would you do?
Well, I suppose, oh, this is tough. I feel cornered over here.
Well, I'm not judging you. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I'm just trying to figure out like what is the natural course of action that
I
happens
suppose
here.
that I have to go, King. I will have to start the withdrawal process on you. So it's almost like I have to go to a threat, but I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for.
I get it. Yeah. That's probably what we would do with our kids too, like scold or, nag them into doing what we want them to do because, they're either doing it really slowly or not at all or really sloppily. That's normal. I think a lot of parents feel that way. You got to handle it a little differently because you're a teacher, but, when you're a parent or, if you could do reality with this kid, you'd be like, come on, I asked you to do this. Why isn't it done? And then how does that particular kid respond to it? Let's say you have one kid, maybe there's one you can think of, we don't need a name, but if you, have that kid and you're frustrated and you remind them or scold them about why they didn't get their work done, how do they usually respond to that?
I got you, Mrs. Pike. I'm going to get some work done. I got you. I do. I got you.
Okay.
That's what I hear. And they keep promising. And I'm like, well, you keep saying that, when are you going to step up to the plate? How badly do you want to graduate? We end up having the same conversation each time.
Yeah. You get in that circle type of a thing. Yeah. Okay. That's perfect, Shirley. That's what I was looking for. I want to do one more. The one who says no to everything. Can that person tell me when it happens? And you don't have to answer as a teacher, even though you might be talking about a student. When that happens, how do you feel when they say no to everything you say to them? Maybe you could raise your hand like Shirley did, and Tony would unmute you for a minute.
Go ahead, Susan.
It's my own 11-year-old, and I just feel super irritated and frustrated and disrespected, I guess.
Yeah. And so what do you do when they say no to you all the time? He says no or she says no, that 11-year-old.
I try to remain calm, but it usually doesn't work very well. And I try to let him know that it's something that he has to do, so it needs to be done. And usually, if there's something that he wants to do, I will say that he has to do whatever I've asked him to do before he can do, what it is that he wants to do. But it doesn't usually encourage him to get it done.
How does he usually respond when you say that? What does he do in
Well,
response?
his latest response now is you're kind of like that kid in the video, but he'll say like you're a bully, which doesn't even make sense. But I think he kind of means like you're bossy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And so Yeah, you see that's that typical response, illogical, because their brains are illogical. 11-year-old, you're thinking, okay, man, you've been on this earth for 11 years now, guy. Come on, you can't come up with something better than that. It doesn't even make any sense. But that's an 11-year-old brain for you. It's that gut reaction from his amygdala, where I'm just going to react to her, knee-jerk reaction. Well, thanks, you guys. That's exactly what I was looking for, because this next slide is going to show you what I'm talking about. So there you see the questions up there. How do I feel? What do I do? How does my kid respond? And then the goal of misbehavior. We're going to pretend Shirley is her kid, because she wouldn't do those things. She would be different as a teacher, and so would Susan. So they're right here. So there's different ways to feel, think of a spectrum again. On one side of that spectrum, you have the lesser emotions of annoyed, or irritated, or frustrated, or, maybe guilty or embarrassed. On the other end of that spectrum, you have angry, And so I feel like I have to point that out to parents when I talk to them, because they think everything's about anger. But, I always say to them, come on, especially men, I'm sorry, I don't mean to man bash, but they're not always like in tune with how they feel. So everything feels like anger to them. So come on, guy, listen, you weren't angry when they wouldn't eat their peanut butter and jelly sandwich. What were you feeling? Until they'll finally go, okay, I was frustrated. I wanted to go, and they're dawdling over their sandwich. So that's why I have to say, annoyed or angry, two different sides of the spectrum. Or you could be hurt and angry, or you could be like, oh, I don't know what to do. This is a hopeless case. All right. And then what do? Those are all kind of mapped out right there. And this is most important, especially with people who aren't really in tune, could be man or woman, with how they feel, because they're always told not to feel that way. So sometimes they might tell me they're angry about everything. Okay, well, what did you do when you were angry? Well, I told them, you can't do that. I keep telling him over and over and over again. All right, so I'm thinking in my head, that person's not really angry. They're just really frustrated, because they're reminding and they're, nagging about it. And then what does the kid do? And there's a whole list of things right there. And if you think about Shirley for a minute, she admitted that she was kind of frustrated. So that's at one end of the spectrum, the lesser end. That's not really like being angry. And what she does is, she said, if it wasn't like a, student teacher thing, I'd probably threaten them, which is right there, scold, you better get this done or else. And so, like she said, he gives a lot of promises. Yeah, I'll do it. He stops temporarily, and then later on, he repeats it. So to me, that sounds like a goal of attention. This kid wants attention. Not that Shirley doesn't give him attention. She probably does, because she's a good teacher. But he's not thinking that way. He's thinking attention on demand. I'm feeling discouraged, or I'm feeling left out with my friends. So bam, I want to get some attention. And I would basically say that Susan is falling in that same thing, because she feels irritated and frustrated. So what does she do? She reminds them, reminding them what they have to do over and over. And how does he react? He reacts with, you're a bully, And so that's really an emotional thing. So my thought is, if this happens a lot between the 11-year-old and Susan, which, that's normal, because he's feeling his oats, 11 years old, being adolescents, all those hormones, he's not getting the attention or the power. He's going to get into a power struggle with her. So now he's gone from just frustrating her and her reminding him. Now he's going to call her a bully, or, you're being too bossy. Now he's gone from attention into power. And he might even go further and one day say, why don't you just shut up? I'm not saying that about him, but it might go into, now he's hurt, and so he's going to get back at her. Just like I mentioned with the stepdad thing. So these are just kind of starting points. And I'm telling you, it helped me, because I realized that what I was doing with Lucas at 3.5, 4 years old is I was fighting with him all the time. I'd say the sky is blue. He'd go, no, it's green. No, Luke, it's the grass that's green. No, it's not, it's blue. So just anything that kid would fight about, he would want to fight with me. And, I'm such a power and control person that I had to fight back with him. I'm like, what am I, 27, 28 years old, and I've got to fight with a 3-year-old? It just doesn't make any sense, So once I knew that, though, I realized that there's a flip side to this. I don't have to go to that party. That's one thing I always tell my parents. You don't have to go to that party just because you're getting invited to it. You can decide to stay home that night and take care of yourself. So those kids who want attention so badly, they just want to be involved. They want to contribute too. That's the positive side. This behavior thing is a continuum. There's a bad side and there's a good side. The bad side is getting negative attention or undue service. Positive side is I want to contribute. So I could ask that kid's advice. I could point out the positive things that they're doing that aren't even related to doing their chores or turning in their homework. I could find ways to give them positive attention for positive behavior. But sometimes you got to realize that if you're a parent, they're not used to that. You've always given negative attention for negative behavior. Now, all of a sudden, you're ignoring the negative attention, the negative behavior, and you're, things that you can't ignore. Can't ignore everything. But you're ignoring when I whine at you or backtalk you, but you're only going to notice me when I'm not asking for it. I mean, they're not thinking those words, but they're feeling it in their gut. So sometimes they ramp it up. And I always tell parents, that's a good sign. It's not a bad sign. That means that they recognize you're doing something different. You have to stay the course. You have to be consistent. What time is it? Okay, so those kids who are into power, they want independence. Help them make decisions. That's what I had to do with Luke. You want brush your teeth before or after? You decide. I didn't care when he brushed his teeth as long as it got done. You don't want to take the garbage out? All right, you clean out the cat box. I'll take the garbage out. I don't care who does it as long as chores are being done. Revenge, they just want fairness. They may not always get their way, but at least they can have their say. At least you can have family meetings where everybody gets to say their side of the story and then a decision is made. Or they get some say into where they're going on vacation this Christmas, or how long they're going to stay out on Christmas Day, anything like that. They have a chance to have their side or their feelings considered before you have to make a choice. And in inadequacy, they just want to learn how to succeed. They're so discouraged they don't know how to. And so choices for them are not a good idea. They need encouragement. We need to look for ways and find things that they're doing right. Just like with that little girl who put a dent in the wall. Yeah, you made a huge mistake. I get it. Everybody makes mistakes. But you came to me. You told me the truth. You came to your dad. You told him the truth, even though you were afraid you were going to get yelled at. And you helped Dad make that repair. That's huge. That's what I call being a grown-up. And so, yeah, things have changed since I was a kid. A lot of times when parents hear me talk about those goals of behavior and how to change them, they get real ooky. I was never taught that way. Well, yeah, they're not. You weren't raised that way. Do you want to give attention, though? Do you want to keep yelling at them and reminding them and scolding them and nagging them? Or do you want to teach them how to be self-reliant? Do you want to always be right and be the boss? Or do you want to help them to be independent and responsible? Do you want to make an effective adult? That starts when they're little. Do you want to get even and be the big cheese in the situation? Or do you want to be show them that you understand so that you can help them develop their empathy? Do you want to let them off the hook, or do you want to help them to learn how to be self-confident by showing them what they're doing right? How many teachers or how many parents does it take to change a child? Just one, but they have to be willing to open up their mind and consider different ways of watching that behavior, finding out what it is, and then making a change. So that's kind of what we talked about today. Understanding that brain development. Kids act out their feelings. And if they have mistaken beliefs about those feelings, then they're going to misbehave. We can identify what that behavior is, figure out what our purpose is in dealing with that child, and help them find a more positive way to have power and attention and fairness. And so I always show this. I always show the different books that can go further. But if you want to learn more about those goals of behavior, that book on the bottom left-hand corner, Raising Self-Reliant Children in a Self-Indulgent World, that's by H. Stephen Glenn and Jane Nelson, the one who talked about, H. Stephen Glenn is the one who talked about the greatest human need. And it helps to help understand those goals of behavior a little bit better. So those are some positive books to read. So I hope that makes it a little bit clearer, you guys, into understanding behavior. When we talk about discipline, we'll be bringing some of these subjects back up. But thanks, Susan and Shirley, for being so honest. I appreciate that. You're muted.
I have a question and a comment with regards to what Shirley spoke about with her student. Couldn't that student fall in the last category of hopeless? And
Yeah,
that is why they're giving the constant excuses as to why they're not getting things done?
absolutely. Absolutely. It could be that. And you would determine that by the way you feel. If you're to the point where, I don't know what else to do with this kid. I know I've tried everything, nothing's working. Yeah, then that's a display of inadequacy. And that kid needs to see some positive things about themselves so that, they can learn that they are competent. And that might be kind of hard, especially in Shirley's position, because she only sees him 8 hours a day. But that doesn't mean that it won't make an impact in them when they have a trusted adult in their life who shows them that they are competent. That means a lot to them. So go by how you're feeling, and that will help you to determine that. And if it helps, I can send a handout to Tony that she can send to you guys that outlines all that and shows you some alternative things that you could do. I'll send that to Tony when we get off of
Good
this. Okay.
Good deal. You guys, any other questions or comments? All right, then we will wrap this up. Thank you so much, Theresa. Excellent
Oh, you're
presentation. And we will see you all next week, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you being part of it. Did you get the male-female thing?